Good evening, everybody. I'm Derek Michaud, and it is time to go Flush in the Pocket, presented by Brunswick, sponsored by Just in Time Recreation. And tonight we got a great one for you. We have a PBA Hall of Famer, the 2000 PBA Senior Player of the Year, Bob Glass, with us. And check out justintimebowl.com, our sponsor. And Bob, how are you doing tonight?
Doing well, Derek. How about you?
I'm doing very well. I'm glad to do this. I really appreciate you taking your time to go ahead and get on the podcast with me. So it should be a lot of fun. If you guys have any questions, definitely go ahead and feel free to ask away. So I guess we'll get started right away. How did you get started in bowling?
Uh, well, I'm really old, and so back in 1954, we got a television set.
Mhm.
I was 6 at the time, and one of the shows was that I saw was the old championship bowling, and it was the one with Whispering Joe Smith,
Mhm.
and I watched that and just loved it. And neither of my parents bowled, but I, begged them and whined and everything and
Mhm.
took me bowling. And I shot an 18 game.
Mhm.
There were pin boys. Uh, it was that long ago. And I just, I just sort of always liked the game. I was one of those kids that set up Lincoln Logs at the end of the dining room table, rolled rubber balls at them, had a little bowling set, used to set up a little alley in a hallway. Drove my parents nuts,
Yep.
but just loved it.
Did you ever put a hole in your wall?
No,
I have.
no,
I
close,
have. I
close.
have. So that's kind of how that's sort of how I got started. A friend of ours was a friend of mine in school was going bowling, and I had to, kind of beg my father to bring me. And luckily he did, and that's how that started. And yeah, I did the same thing with the bowling in the hallway and stuff like that. I mean, you're not the only person that's done that. I feel like everybody that I've talked to has kind of started out that way. So so that's really awesome. So, who coached you while you were while you were starting your bowling career?
Well, my dad a little bit.
Mhm.
Uh, when I turned 8, they let me bowl in a junior league,
Mhm.
and uh, Evelyn Barrymore was the woman who was in charge. It was a huge program in Kansas City. It was at the old Plaza Bowl, which hasn't existed, I think, for almost 50 years.
Mhm.
And one of the nice things about being taught by a woman is that they have to do everything right.
Mhm.
Men in bowling can get away with mistakes, right?
Mhm.
Because we're stronger. They kind of, it's to their advantage to do everything right. And so I learned my fundamentals, by the time I was 9, 10 years old. And uh, I've always had a pretty strong fundamental game, but I don't understand fundamentals.
Mhm.
That's why it's really difficult for me to teach bowling because, it's like I just pick up the ball and
Mhm.
start walking and throw it. I never, like when I wanted to throw the ball slower, I just moved up a couple of feet on the approach and I automatically took smaller steps and, didn't foul. Or if I wanted to throw harder, I took I was another foot back on the foul, from the, on the
Mhm.
approach. And
Mhm.
so, you know, it's one of those things where not knowing the fundamentals was nice in a sense because I never thought about them, but it was really bad because when something went wrong, I didn't know how to fix it because I didn't
Mhm.
know what was wrong. Um, One of the great things about my wife is that she's a great teacher and she has a great understanding of fundamentals of bowling. She taught bowling at the University of Kansas,
Nice.
and so when I would start to have a problem, I'd just drag her to the bowling alley and say, "Tell me what I'm doing wrong," and she'd look at me, and 15 seconds later, she'd say, "You're supposed to take small steps and then big steps, not big steps and small steps. You're
Mhm.
backwards,
Mhm.
or whatever it was I was doing wrong. And so I spend about 2 or 3 minutes and I'd be back where I was. And then there was Earl Anthony knew a lot of tricks, right? I
Mhm.
mean, that guy was really smart. He spent a lot of time. One of his tricks was, if you ever feel like you're getting out of rhythm bowling, just, get off the approach, walk up, pick up the ball, don't stop walking, and then throw it. He said, do that a couple times, your timing will come back.
Mhm.
So, I learned things like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, the fundamentals were taught to me by the time I was 9, 10 years old.
Okay. Okay. Now, do you still bowl today? Yeah.
No,
Mhm.
I quit probably. The last time I bowled in league was actually December 7th, 2005.
Okay. All right.
When I quit bowling on tour, on the senior tour, I quit because I got a job. I got the job I have now,
Mhm.
and even though I'm 76, I'm still working.
Mhm.
Although January 6th is retire, July 6th is retirement day for me.
Hey, congratulations on that.
Yeah,
Um, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so when I quit, I couldn't lift my right arm
Mhm.
above, actually to my shoulder level. So I've had surgery on my right shoulder, my left shoulder,
Mhm.
my left knee. Uh, I had a kidney stone,
Mhm.
and then and work was, I got hired, and I got hired for a specific project which was pretty demanding,
Mhm.
and I was working uh, till 6, 7 o'clock at night, getting home, and then I had to go to bed by 9:30 because I was getting up at 5 in the morning to go to the gym. Because I have to go to the gym, or I mean, my body just falls apart pretty easily,
Mhm.
and so I just didn't have the time. I had planned on it, but then I developed macular degeneration in my right eye, and so I don't have any depth perception either.
Mhm.
And that was always a key to my game, was knowing what happened at each individual spot down the lane.
Mhm.
Without the depth perception, I don't think I'd be able to do much. And now, I mean, at 76, I'm happy when I get up in the morning. A good
Sure.
day is not seeing dirt, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. So let's see, where am I going? What did you accomplish? What did you accomplish in your bowling life that made you want to try the tour?
Well, I was a good bowler in the 60s. I went to the university, or went to Baker University.
Mhm.
It's a small private school in Kansas. The only way I could afford it was I had a scholarship.
Mhm.
But I went there and bowled there. Uh, and I could average 200. I averaged 200 before I ever shot a 700. 10 years, actually, almost, yeah, 10 years before I ever shot a 700, I averaged 200. And I was always good at just grinding out numbers, just throw the ball the same place. Uh, Back in the 60s,
Mhm.
I threw a full roller, and there were guys that threw real powerhouse
Mhm.
full rollers like Jimmy Certain. I didn't.
Mhm.
I threw the weak suck, you know, full roller that. So I could pick up my 5.7s and pick up my 5.10 some, and I just picked up a lot of spares and occasionally got a double, and that was my game. And then I quit in like '69 when I graduated. I was in the service for 2 years, got out of the service, then worked for a couple of years, or worked for about a year actually, at Environmental Protection Agency. Went down to Florida to go to graduate school. Um, Came back to KU, and my ex-wife talked me into bowling again. She
Mhm.
said that my ex-wife was funny,
Mhm.
funny in a very sarcastic way.
Mhm.
She said that bowling was the only time she ever saw me take 5 steps without stumbling. And so I just started bowling again, and I was bowling at University of Kansas, and I bowled on the team there. I was the first guy to average 200 in that house, and then over 10 years. And the guy that averaged 200, I guess, like 10 years before that, actually threw a straight ball and aimed for the nose and either hit Brooklyn or pocket.
Sure.
That's the story. So I was just, I liked it, and I bowled some tournaments. I liked bowling tournaments. And then a guy came to town and he said, well, let's go bowl a pro tournament. So I went and did okay, bowled as an amateur, made some money. And I said, well, this is pretty good. Let's try this again. Little did I know how hard it really was. And that was it. It was just a friend of mine who I bowled with like 2 years before that just came to town and said, let's try it. Why don't you just go with me? And that's how it started. And I had been bowling for about a year and a half in the PBA when ran into Brian Goebel, and he changed the way that I bowled a lot.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that's how it happened. It wasn't like it was some gigantic plan. I didn't. This just tells you how there are a lot of things that indicate how limited my understanding of bowling was. I didn't know when I started bowling again in like 1976. I didn't know that there were boards outside the first arrow, because I had spent my life bowling between second and third arrow. The ball hooking maybe 7, 8 boards. That was it. And so I was just absolutely stunned when people started playing the gutter. And I said, holy, those guys are, they're throwing it in the gutter. No. Oh, there are boards outside the first arrow. That was really surprising to me. And so I averaged 200 before I knew there were boards outside the first arrow.
Wow, that's pretty good. So I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, so that's kind of why this question's on there. I feel like I heard that you did not bowl the national tour, but like before you, like you're in the PBA Hall of Fame because of what you did on the senior tour. Did you ever bowl full time on the national tour?
I never bowled full time, but I tried. I think I bowled 3 or 4 tournaments in 1979. I cashed finally, and on the national stop, finally cashed in the last tournament. The next year I bowled like 10, I think, cashed in a couple, cashed in 3, I think, and made 1 finals. And then I did real well in they used to have, I don't know if they still have it, end of the year tournament where everybody that won a regional tournament could bowl in it. I bowled in that, finished second, and I thought, well, and I knew Steve Wunderlich, and I knew he was going to go out full time, and so we talked, and I just went with him. I went to the first 6 stops, or first 6 stops, and I wasn't quite good enough to be mediocre. I could cash some. I was rarely I was versatile enough that I was rarely in a position where I was completely out of it. But I remember coming back from Houston, I was riding with Bob Hanley and who's the great left-handed bowler out of Indianapolis?
Mike Albee.
Mike Albee. Mike Albee was driving. It was his van. I'm sorry, I'm old.
That's okay.
Mine goes. Anyway, so Hanley and I and Brian Goebel all bowled at the same bowling alley, went to the same high school. There was just 5 years separating myself from Hanley, and then there was another 9 years between Hanley and Brian. And Bob actually bowled with my sister in mixed doubles. So I knew Bob pretty well. And so I was asking him, I said, do you think I could make it out here? He said, well, I said, you're probably become mediocre. He said, you might win once every couple of years, something like that. He said, you got a master's degree in economics, don't you? I said, yeah. He says, how close are you to a PhD? I said, well, it'd take a couple of years. He said, I think if I were you, I'd think about that PhD in economics, because I think that sounds like a lot better deal than struggling out here for 5 to 10 years and not having anything, which was the best advice I ever got from anybody. Well, some of the best advice, let's say, I ever got from anybody. And so that's what I did. I went back. I bowled occasionally when, if there was a national tournament nearby, I'd go. Sometimes if Brian had room, I'd stay with him. And I bowled, 2-3 tournaments a year, maybe 4, but I never tried the national tour again. And, in all honesty, I doubt I could have been anything, I would have been at best mediocre. There was a national tour guy Hall of Famer, who described me as a journeyman bowler who just waited everybody else out and went to the gym while they drank.
Wow. Okay.
And I, by the way, I do have a pretty good idea of what it took to be, successful in the national tour.
Sure.
Because I used to practice with Brian Goebel all the time.
Oh yeah.
And he was a lot better than I was.
Okay. Before we go any further, I'd be horrible if I did not mention thank you for your service. Thank you for serving our country.
I'm of that age. I was drafted. And a lot of guys went to Nam. I was really lucky and went to Berlin. I spent 17 months in Berlin. So I did 2 years, and it threw off graduate school by a couple of years, but it could have been a whole lot worse. And I know a lot of guys who didn't get hurt, didn't get shot or anything. It came back pretty screwed up. So I always feel like I got really lucky not having to go to Nam.
Yeah. Adam Lemery's big fan of the PBA. He wants to know, what was it like to bowl with Earl Anthony?
Okay, well, this is kind of a long answer, so if you don't want the long answer,
you can give it any answer you want. Go right ahead with the long one. Sure.
Growing up, left-handers couldn't bowl. And I remember in 61, 62, 63, somewhere in there, where all of a sudden, not only could left-handers bowl, but they could beat you all the time. But they were always playing the gutter. I don't remember, there was a left-hander who told Bowler's Journal that for 4 tournaments in a row, he stood on the same board and threw the ball at the same board for 4 straight tournaments. And so that, that's what I went from left-handers can't bowl to, my God, they have the whole world. And then, I started bowling again in 76, 77. And I started seeing some left-handers that were pretty good. They didn't have to play the gutter. They didn't have to have 10 boards. They could make shots. And then I bowled Earl Anthony in a match in Vegas. I somehow made the finals. I bowled Anthony. And I could tell you what board he was standing on and what board he was aiming at. And it was just like watching the mirror image of Bo Burton. Bo Burton, you could always tell where he was playing, what he was aiming at, how he was playing the game. I mean, there was never, Burton never sprayed shots, and Earl Anthony didn't spray shots. And he could do so many different things with his hand. He was just absolutely amazing. He was incredibly accurate, and he was incredibly accurate, even when he was doing sort of, bizarre things. Like there was a time when he didn't want to throw the ball particularly hard, but the first 15 feet on the lane on the left hand side out on tour were just bone dry.
Mm-hmm.
And he had this way of just, if you were right-handed, it was called topping the ball.
Mm-hmm.
But he could do that, and he could make the ball hit like a truck at the back end, and he wasn't doing much to the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the paddock in 1981 at the doubles, PBA
Mm-hmm.
doubles.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was 82. I don't remember. Anthony and Bo Burton bowled doubles together. And so Anthony bowls well and comes in, packs up his stuff and he leaves. And after he's out the door, Burton says, "I can't believe it. You can see his thumb at 15 feet. The ball doesn't turn over." Okay,
Wow.
that sounds like, man, he's just throwing a crappy ball. That's what you think if you're right-handed.
Mm-hmm.
But he was doing that and making the ball hit at the back end. So to me, Earl Anthony was just an incredible master of what he could do with his hands and what he could do with his approach. He was just amazingly accurate.
Wow. That's awesome. That's really cool.
And plus, he knew 10,000 tricks. He knew how to fix almost any problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I mean, that's incredible right there. What would you say was your best moment on tour? Now, when I say on tour, I mean, obviously people that know you for the PBA, we'll call it PBA 50 now, as a PBA senior back then, but that's that's how I have seen you bowl. You have how many PBA 50 titles? 8?
8 or 9. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Let's see. 4, 2, 4, 1, 2. I think I have 9.
Yep, there you go. And so in Player of the Year in 2000, what was your best moment on tour?
Well, I very distinctly remember this.
Mm-hmm.
I was working at the University of Kansas. I was
Mm-hmm.
a research economist. I had my PhD.
Mm-hmm.
And I would occasionally teach a class, but I was primarily a researcher. And I worked at this institute that was always run by economists. Then a political scientist came in, took it over for the last year I was there, and he hated economists.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically ran me out. And that just so happened when I started bowling the senior tour, bowling senior events. And I had been on television a couple of times, and I had finished second twice, I think. I also managed to throw 2 gutter balls in a game. And so, but I hadn't won yet. And I left May 23rd. That was my last day at work. And at the end of April, I bowled, I took vacation, bowled a tournament in Reading, Pennsylvania, just outside of Reading, Pennsylvania, national stop.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed to throw a strike, or maybe I needed to get 9 on a ball to win the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And I threw a strike, and I could not breathe. I mean, it was just like, it was like, and it was just amazing. I mean, I hadn't won before.
Mm-hmm.
I bowled well. I just hadn't won. And that winning was really, it was a huge difference in my attitude. And, I mean, it could have been just luck, but I threw the strike, and that's the event that I remember the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. What would you say is your worst moment on tour?
Well, there were twice I left 5 7-10s, and that got some laughs. But that's just that was bowling down in Austin, and the lanes weren't exactly level, let's say.
Is that at Highland Lanes?
I don't remember the name of the place. I
Okay.
just know they never went back again.
Okay.
Well, and I wasn't the only one. I saw Walter Ray do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess I lost a tournament one time where I led the field by 350 pins.
Mm-hmm.
If I struck out in the 10th, all I needed was one strike in the 10th to win the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I left a 10 pin, picked it up, left another 10 pin. So it's a tie.
Mm-hmm.
Then we we have a 1-ball roll off.
Mm-hmm.
Other guy throws a strike. I throw another 10 pin. I was not a happy camper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was sort of the peak of frustration because, as I said, I had led the tournament by maybe 2. This was back in the old style, where you qualified, then you bowled match play against everybody. It wasn't the you bowled one game match play and 23 of those, and then you had a position round rather than the way they do it now. And that was frustrating.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you have an opponent that you beat a lot on TV or in match play?
No. I mean, I did okay in match play, but
mm-hmm.
I wasn't great. The year that I won 4 titles,
mm-hmm.
I led 7 tournaments.
Okay.
I mean, after the match play, I was the leader in 7 of them. So, 4 times I won, 3 times I didn't. There were guys that I beat sometimes, guys that I lost to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you want to know the guys I lost to that I know? I can name
Yeah,
guys.
I mean, there's absolutely. I mean, who had your number on TV? Yeah, very sure.
Okay. Dick Weber was kind of an idol of mine. One of the one of the guys that I really looked up to.
Mm-hmm.
I bowled him probably 12, 13 times in match play, and I never beat him.
Mm-hmm.
And the last time I bowled him, I threw a 196 without a double.
Mm-hmm.
And he had 3 open frames. He went double, open, double, open, double, open, struck out, something like that. I don't remember exactly. Anyhow, and he beat me with 3 open frames.
Mm-hmm.
All he had to do was put his ball down on the rack, and it was like, hey, Dick, bowl a big game. Let me bowl a big game. I'll take the loss.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a left-hander, and I can't think of his name right now. He was really a good left-hander,
mm-hmm.
and he just absolutely owned me. I never beat him.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were other guys that would beat me. I mean, Johnny Petraglia beat me quite a bit. I beat him a few times, but he had my number. I never beat Brian in match play, I don't think. Maybe one time.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Hanley I did beat once or twice. There were guys that I never beat Earl Anthony. I only bowled him a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
I bowled, and one of the most amazing things. This is a little off, but I don't know that I ever beat Parker Bone, but I bowled Parker Bone and in Albuquerque at the ABC Masters. We were in, it was, those 3-game match play things.
Yeah. In 2000, right?
Yeah, 2000. That's probably right. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, because I wrecked my car there.
Okay.
Anyhow, it was one of the most amazing performances I ever saw. I mean, it was a relatively close match. If I could have doubled a couple of times, I think I lost by 20 pins. He shot, I think I shot 620, shot 40, something like that.
Mhm.
But that guy hit the third or fourth board on the left-hand side every damn time. It was just absolutely amazing to watch. That was one of the most incredible performances of accuracy I've ever seen. He was truly amazing. And he's a great guy. I mean,
Oh, fantastic.
yeah, my grandson was with me, and we just happened to run into him at a tournament down in Wichita. And he stopped, talked to my grandson. My grandson still remembers it. Or actually, it's my wife's grandson. He still remembers that.
I mean, absolutely. Parker is one of those guys that you will remember. Every encounter is going to be a positive one, and you will remember every single one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a good friend. As a matter of fact, he was on this show. He's the reason I started interviewing pro bowlers, because I was going to do something different. I had Andrew Pfeffer on here, and he was my first guest. Parker was my second guest. And then I was like, that interview was so easy. I thought, yeah, I should interview any pro that'll let me interview him. So yeah, Parker's he's a good friend of mine, great guy. Absolutely.
Well, he really is a good guy. And just, he was so incredibly accurate.
Oh yeah. My God. He made a living on the 1, 2, 3 board. Really? I mean, that's, yeah.
Yes.
What was the PBA? What was the title that meant the most to you?
I guess I won the senior nationals in 60, and that sort of locked up my bowler of the year. So that was, that was pretty important. And I won it on television, and it was a house that it was up in Jackson, Michigan, and it was a house that I bowled well in. And it's kind of strange. It was a house that I knew the final pair, because that was the house that I threw the two gutter balls the year before, and in the finals on TV. The right-hand lane had a high board. I don't know, maybe 35, 40 feet down the lane. If you hit that thing, you didn't know where the ball was going to go. For some reason, the way the lane was set up, it was hard to avoid that board. And I think I shot at 230 and 220, and whoever I bowled against could have struck out in a 10th to beat me, but they had to finish on that right lane. And I knew that, well, I didn't know, but I suspected it was going to be really hard, because that board was just, that night, it was exactly where you wanted to throw the ball.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Well, that is awesome. All right. So what was your favorite tour stop?
Reading, Pennsylvania. I won it twice and finished second or third time. And then they stopped having it. That's one thing I liked about it. The other thing was they had a gym above the bowling alley. And so I used to just go to the gym, after bowling. It was a great place. And so, that was one great thing about it. The other great thing was there was a sandwich shop outside, within a quarter mile of the hotel that we stayed at.
Yep.
And that sandwich shop, that guy made the best turkey, cheese, Swiss cheese, tomatoes, everything. And I had never had this before. I used to eat ice cream all the time, loved ice cream.
Sure.
And he had Hershey's ice cream. I had never seen Hershey's ice cream before. So, a great place. I stopped in that place like twice a day. That guy knew me by name.
Yeah, good. No, there was I get that, because when last time I went to see the pros in Portland, there was a sandwich shop kind of attached to the hotel. Well, not, I didn't have to cross the road, but after I discovered it, I went there a couple days. I mean, it was pretty great. So I totally understand that. What was a tour stop that your least favorite tour stop? Maybe one you didn't carry well. I mean, or didn't do that great. What was your least favorite?
It was in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I bowled well there. I actually won one year there.
Mm-hmm.
But they one end of the house, the approaches were real slick. The other end of the house, the approaches were just, incredibly tacky.
Mm-hmm.
And I swear I popped my knee in that house like 5 or 6 times. I would leave tournaments there limping.
Oh man.
And so that I didn't like that, although I liked everything else about it. And there was another great, there was I don't, who was I with? Sal Bongiorno, I think. We found this place to eat. It was like a hole in the wall. It was an Italian restaurant. And the guy had just fantastic food, just unbelievable. And we'd go in and eat there. And the last time I came back, Sal had sold the place. It was called Sal's something or other. And Sal was hysterical. I'll clean this up, but I went with a friend, and a friend said, "Do you have good chili?" He says, "I got the greatest chili in the world. My ex-wife's recipe." He said, "Blah blah 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 blah," but it's great chili.
Yeah, yeah. Where did the PBA never go that you wish they had gone for a tournament?
Well, I actually went to Vermont, and I wish I would have gone there. I'm from the Midwest, and I always liked, I always wanted to bowl in North Dakota. I mean, I eventually made it to North Dakota, but always wanted to bowl in North Dakota. Just because, how many people are there in North Dakota? Like 700,000 or something like that. And it's to me, it was always kind of an interesting place because I had a friend that I used to, when I was at KU for a while, I worked in the computer center. I was what do they call them? Computer operator or something. I wasn't good at it, but I had it. And guy I worked with, his parents moved from Alaska to North Dakota, but then after 5 years, they moved back to Alaska because it wasn't cold enough.
Oh, okay.
So I always was, North Dakota's always been kind of fascinating to me because of that. I mean, you hear things like that and you wonder that those people are different than I am.
Yeah. Wow. Are you a cold weather guy or a warm weather?
Well, in general, I like warm weather, but I lived down in Tampa. I went to University of South Florida for 2 years. And I've said a lot of stupid things in my life.
Okay.
But I said one of the dumbest things I ever said when we left Tampa to my ex-wife. I literally said, as we got in the truck to leave, I'm just tired of good weather.
Oh, God.
That should be the road to hell, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Wow. All right. That's great. I'm tired of good weather. Okay.
That's how stupid that's the stupidest thing I've ever said, I think. And I've said a lot of stupid things.
Haven't we all though? I mean, come on now. So what's a PBA rule that you agree with when you were on tour?
Okay, Brian actually was involved in getting this rule. I always hated it. There were certain guys that we all knew, especially in the region, in the Southwest region, guys who you move to the next pair and they jump up on the wrong lane if they're leading off and throw a shot and get an extra practice ball, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you got nothing. They got nothing for it. and there was no penalty or anything. And it was just there were certain guys. There was one guy I almost tackled. I mean, I grabbed him. I thought I was going to have to tackle him to stop him from throwing the ball. And he'd already done it like twice in that block. And so I was really glad when they changed that rule, that it was just a miss, just a shot that didn't count for anything. You threw the ball, you had to deal with it, what you left. And so I thought that was a great rule.
So let me see if I understand that. So you're not talking. So you're actually talking about a bowler actually getting up on the wrong lane to bowl
intentionally, and
God.
getting a free practice shot.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I've bowled on the wrong lane a couple times, but that's just idiot. That's just craziness on my part.
Well, no, I mean, I've got.
Yeah,
that happens. All of us made that mistake.
Sure.
But when a guy makes the mistake 3 times in a block,
no,
that's not a mistake anymore.
Mm-hmm. No, it is not a mistake. No. What's a PBA rule that you disagree with?
I don't know. I actually, when I watched your show with Brian.
Oh yeah.
And I thought about this question, and I never could think of it. I wasn't a big rules guy. Brian was involved on the rules committee, and he was tight with Johnny Campos and stuff. I was on the rules committee on the senior tour 1 week. I made one suggestion. They said, "Well, we really don't need you anymore."
Whoa.
So I really didn't pay that much attention to. There wasn't anything that really bothered me a lot because you got used to it.
Sure.
I remember when I first started bowling, one of the big problems I had was adjusting to, you wait a pair, you wait a pair, you wait a pair.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I grew up bowling when you waited for the guy next to you, and that was it.
Yep.
And I can't really think of anything. There were rules I had to adjust to. Yeah, I remember I used to have long hair, really long hair.
I remember 2000.
And Ernie Schlegel one time turned me in for having long hair.
Oh my God. Wow. Okay. Why would he do that? Oh, okay.
Well, he didn't bowl well.
No. He was on here for 4 hours. If you break it down an hour and a half, or hour at a time if you want, but he was on this show and it was a 4-hour show. It was a good show.
Yeah. He has incredible stories.
Oh yeah.
Did he tell you the one about Eddie Lubanski?
He might. God, he might have. I think he did. Yeah.
He was bowling in 1960. He was bowling in the Masters or something like that, and he was bowling against that Lubanski team that had Ernie Kovacs on it, or Ernie Kowalik on it.
Okay.
And
he did.
Ernie Kowalik got mad and spit this big hawker out on like second arrow because the lanes were screwed up and stuff. And he tells a story about how Eddie Lubanski plays that hawker and shoots 700.
Okay.
I mean, but Ernie's got a lot of great stories.
Oh, he does. Yeah, he was a great guy. It was a lot of fun, and and I never set out to have a 4-hour episode. It happened one other time, but I mean, if it ever happens, it happens. But I mean, that was a lot of fun. Check it out, and that's awesome. And did you watch his when Ed Lubanski shot 300 back to back? Now, was that on TV or was that on Championship Bowling? What was
that? Was on television down in Miami, and there's a YouTube of it.
Yep,
you can see the last game, but it was both games were on television. It's like it was 1959 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I tried to watch anything I could like that. My dad took me to see. There used to be the old Falstaff team. They
Mhm.
came to Kansas City, and I saw them. That was Buddy Bolmar, Ned Day,
Mhm.
Bill Lillard. Uh, what was his name? Griffith, Bobby Griffith, something like that. Griffin.
Okay.
Um, and then, like 2 months, 3 months later, the Budweisers came to town. And this was in 56, 57 maybe, but it was before they shot The Big Score. They
Okay.
shot that, and I believe it was they shot it in the fall, but I don't remember exactly. But he so went down, and I knew everybody on the Budweiser team because Carter led off, Bluth bowled second, Patterson bowled third, Tom Hennessy bowled fourth. But they had this skinny kid bowling anchor that I didn't know who he was, and that was Dick Weber.
Okay.
That was the first time I saw Weber,
Mm-hmm.
and it was incredible watching those guys bowl.
Oh, I bet it was. Where were you when you found out that Dick, Earl, and when Dick Weber and Earl passed away? Earl is an 01, Dick was an 05. What was your reaction to those?
My wife probably got the last autograph that Earl Anthony gave. He was at the senior event. It was in Portland or Seattle. I don't remember exactly, but he was there, and I always liked him, and he remembered me. I was always surprised that he would remember who I was, but so I was talking to him, and my wife came up and said, "Mr. Anthony, can I get your autograph?" And I said, "Earl, this is my wife," and Judy, and so he gave her real nice autograph and stuff, and he died the next Thursday.
Yep.
And that was I just remember thinking, wow, there's a real loss. I mean, he was a great bowler, and he won an enormous number of tournaments, and he did a lot of incredible things, but the amount of knowledge that he had in his head was absolutely incredible. He was really, really a smart bowler.
No.
Dick Weber, my wife took the picture of Dick Weber where he's walking off the approach and he's waving. I don't know if you ever seen that picture.
I think
It was
I have,
on
yeah.
cover of a couple of magazines. My wife took that picture.
Okay.
And I remember I got the call in the morning. He just came back from bowling the ABC for like the 150th time or something. I mean, he was he bowled it a lot. He just felt obligated to bowl it every year. Well, actually, no, he didn't feel he liked to do it. He really liked to do it. Yeah. And Dick and I, were not that close, but we were close. I mean, we would go to tournaments in the Midwest when we would have Midwest regional tournaments, senior regional tournaments. He and I would go a day early, and he was just incredible with fans. I'm sure you're aware of all this, but
yeah.
He just had all these little bits he could do and stuff. And then we would bowl a kind of a pro-am, and he needed a second guy, and so that was me. Dick was really, really an interesting guy. And in contrast to Earl Anthony, Dick and I talked about this. He was really a field bowler. And one of the things that I remember him saying, he said, if you get up in the 10th frame and you need a strike, he said, here's what I do. I move 2 boards to the right and fire a rocket at the pocket. He said, may not strike, but he says, you're not going to look bad.
Okay.
But yeah, I didn't think he would die. He looked like he was like 42. He was 10 years older than I was and looked 10 years younger. So I was kind of shocked. I really was.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, rest in peace, Dick, Earl, Mr. Chrisman. Oh gosh, What was not a PBA rule that you wish was a PBA rule?
Huh. Well, they do it now. For a long time, you didn't know what the pattern was out there on the
Mm-hmm.
lane.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the lane man's name, but it was always a mystery. And then certain guys would find out the second day, oh, the shot moved a foot and a half inside or moved to the gutter or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I always wished that, and when they started doing it, I thought it was great. When they eliminated the main lane man and they just had the lane machine and they put up what the shot was, I thought that was the fairest thing possible. So that was something that I really liked. Another thing, I wrote a letter to the PBA in the mid 50s,
Mm-hmm.
and the mid 90s. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was, I basically said, put some dye in the oil so the fans know what the shot is. They don't, that
Oh.
they're out there, they watch guys playing and they don't have any understanding. There's no way they can figure out just how hard it is. Put some dye in the oil. Let us see what the shot is on TV. And they did that eventually, but
Mm-hmm.
it was like 10 years, 15 years later.
Yep.
And I thought that first time I saw that, I was watching a TV show and I saw this. This is perfect. This is what should have been done.
You think so? Okay. I'm not a fan of it, but
Really?
no.
What do you dislike about it?
Well,
I'm interested.
I don't. It's not. If I go to a bowling alley, I'm not going to see that. So I don't think a pro should see that either. But if I'm going bowling tomorrow, and
Mhm.
I'm sure the lane's going to be oiled. There's not going to be a dye in the lanes to see the oil. I don't think they should. I don't think they should see what they're bowling on. I get that they're doing it for us. It just does. I mean, let's see. They had yellow oil. They had red oil, which it's horrendous. And then they had the blue oil. Blue oil kind of looks like a swimming pool a little bit. But no, I think just leave it alone and just take it out. But now that I know, that's cool. I mean, that's good. Let me ask you this: what did you suggest that got you that were from the rules committee that said when they said they don't need you anymore? What did you want?
I don't really remember.
That's okay.
It was something like they wanted to limit the balls in the paddock or something. You could only have 8 balls in the paddock, and
Sure. Yep.
there were complaints about guys, bringing in 3-ball bags and just, having them stand up rather than, filling in that paddock usually has, like shelves and not putting
Right.
them on the shelves and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, don't we have something more important to do than worry about that? I mean, 8, if you have 8 in there, that's good enough. If you're stupid enough to take them out of the bag and just let them roll around, that's your problem.
Yep.
But, I didn't think it was important. And, that's just not an attitude you want on the rules committee.
Sure. Absolutely. All right. So those are the main questions. And so what we do is when I created this podcast, I wanted to the reason why the questions are all the same for all the pros is because when I was writing the questions for Parker, I was like, I've never really sat down and wrote questions for a pro bowler. So I was just like, so that they just came to me that way, and the answers are always different. So let me ask you this: when was the last time you bowled 300?
Boy, I don't remember. I think it was probably, Texas has these SASPA tournaments.
Yep.
Or they had them.
Mm-hmm.
I used to bowl those quite a bit when there wasn't a regional senior stop or the regular tour senior stop.
Sure.
I used to go down and bowl those, and we used to bowl this place in Conroe, Texas.
Okay.
Oh, left-hander owned that. I can't think of his name now. He was from the 60s. It was good bowler. He was a pro bowler from the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I bowled that tournament 5 times, I think. And I used to joke, I'm going down, and the place was called Conroe 300. And I used to joke, it was the easiest house I ever bowled in my life.
Okay.
They gave you the pocket and they gave you the carry. If you couldn't shoot a 300 there in a tournament, you know, it should have been an embarrassment. I saw guys average 260 for 20-something games. So the last year that I used to just joke about going down there. Well, I'm going to pick up my 300 because unbelievably they sanctioned it.
Oh no. Okay.
But one year I went down there and I always, I'd average 245, something like that, finish 10th or maybe 9th, something like that. I was never able to really score. I couldn't keep up with the guys that could just throw strikes after strikes after strikes. But the last year I went down there, they said, well, you're going to like it this year, Bob. We really made it a lot harder. I said, oh, great. I averaged 250. I did win the tournament, but I averaged 250. There is no condition in the world I am a 250 average bowler. I mean, I'm just not that good. That was amazing. But I probably shot a 300 in the summer of 2005 down there.
Yeah.
I didn't shoot any in league because I bowled. And I had to quit bowling because the pain was just unbelievable in my right shoulder.
Sure.
Interestingly enough, I did try to bowl left-handed for a while, and it was unbelievably frustrating in strange ways. But I could throw strikes. God, I could throw strikes left-handed. Throwing a 14-pound ball, and the pins just, exploded on the lane. I was bowling on a house shot.
Yeah. So this house that you were talking about, I'm a 140 average bowler. Should I get on a plane and go bowl there, and maybe I'll have a shot? I mean, I throw a backup ball, but oh, really? Okay.
No, right. It was. I saw guys that threw rockets to the pocket.
Yeah.
Averaged 267 for 12 games.
Oh, wow.
You think about that. Do you remember the twins that were there were twin pros?
Mike and Mark.
Both? Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Scroggy. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Mike averaged this. I remember this in like 2002, 2003. So I was at a regular Southwest Regional, and I saw Scroggins. I said, I saw in Bowler's Journal that you averaged 262 or something the year before, or 158. I don't remember, some unbelievable number. So I went up to him. I said, Mike, how did you do that? He said, well, the lanes were easy. I said, well, I know that. I don't care how easy they are.
Yeah.
And I asked his brother, I said, what did you average? He said, I can't hit the damn house. He says, I averaged 238.
Oh.
He said, it says place is just impossible for me.
Oh my God. Okay. Wow. I would love to come home tomorrow and or just to be good enough to be like, oh, I hang out with my parents in Florida and Derek, how'd you bowl? Oh, terrible. I shot 780 or whatever. For me, 500 or over 5 is good, but that's wow. That is awesome. The reason I ask is because you're going to bowl 300 tonight, only using your voice. That's a hell of a story. I love that. 12 questions, just random fun stuff. And let me see if I can get the mouse to cooperate. And yeah, we'll get started. So what is your favorite food?
Mexican something, taco salad, burrito.
Gosh, absolutely.
Anything.
Are you a sour cream guy?
No.
Oh, wow. Okay. It's all right. Favorite music?
I like European metal. I like
Okay.
groups like Nightwish, Epica.
Oh,
Um, I've got like 3 DVDs of Nightwish concerts. I've
yep.
got the Epica concert from 2013, their 10-year whatever it was called, that 3-hour concert where they brought up the Hungarian National Orchestra and they had like 2 choirs. Or, I mean, I love that kind of music. I can listen to it all the time. But
Mm-hmm.
I like all kinds of music. I mean, I like right now. I love listening to the Beach Boys.
Okay.
And I can remember I would drive through Utah going to Vegas or something, and I had this CD. Well, still had the CD with 50 of the Beach Boys' greatest hits. Right?
Mm-hmm.
No, 30 of
Oh,
them.
okay.
And I'm listening to these things, and I'm thinking, um, the guy that wrote these songs was a schizophrenic, bipolar mess. How did he write these songs?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
But I like the Beatles. I really well. The way I found out about European metal was I was talking to a guy. This was before COVID,
Mm.
and I was talking to a guy at the gym, and he said, "What kind of music do you like?" I said, "Well, I like the Wall of Sound, the Phil Spector Wall of Sound back in the '60s. I liked Led Zeppelin. I thought Led Zeppelin was incredibly creative. I liked." Uh, I like Boston. I like that classic rock. I liked a group like the Babies. I thought a couple of the Babies hits where they used an orchestra and stuff was really cool. Guy
Mm-hmm.
said, "Well, you ought to listen to European symphonic metal." I said, "That doesn't sound right." But yeah, I love that stuff.
That's awesome. Adam said he saw the Beach Boys in concert and met Mike Love.
Really, I
Yeah.
saw them 3 times when I was a kid. When my sister wanted to go see something,
Mm-hmm.
I had to go with her.
Okay.
And so I saw the Beach Boys 3 times. Once when Brian Wilson was there, and then twice with what was his name? The country singer.
Oh God, because I'm a country guy. God, I don't know.
Yeah, I did Wichita Lineman and
Oh,
that kind
Glenn
of stuff.
Campbell. Sure.
Glenn Campbell.
Yeah.
Okay, Glenn Campbell took his place. He played bass.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've ever seen, I mean, Glenn Campbell was an incredible guitarist.
Sure. Yeah.
He played, he was a session musician. He was part of that group, what they call them, the Wrecking Crew. He was just there's a, he used to, in concerts sometimes, play the William Tell Overture on the guitar. He's just an amazing guitarist.
Mm-hmm.
But I like most music.
There you go. Funny you mentioned that because I was watching some stuff on YouTube and I was watching old episodes of Super Greed, which hosted Chuck Woolery. The top prize was like $4 million or whatever. Nobody ever got that. But like one of the questions was who played it was like 4 or 6 possible answers. Who played with the Beach Boys or whatever, and Glenn Campbell was somebody that it was interesting fact. So that was definitely a trivia question. That's awesome.
Yeah.
If you could use a time machine to travel back in time, what year would you go back to?
Well, if I got to come back real quick, I was a graduate student in history, so I have no illusions about what plumbing, etc., was like in the past, hygiene, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But my favorite period was the Enlightenment, the 18th century.
Okay.
I like the Scottish Enlightenment. I like Adam Smith, David Hume, but I really like the French Enlightenment. As a matter of fact, I was a graduate student in history before I went into economics, and I wrote a master's thesis, never turned it in, but it was about the transition from rationalism to taste and neoclassical criticism, which sounds a lot fancier than it was. I mean, believe me, you're talking, talking to a kid from Kansas, right?
Mhm.
But it was, I took a seminar in David Hume, a graduate seminar in David Hume,
Mhm.
graduate seminar in Descartes,
Mhm.
graduate seminar in Immanuel Kant. So, I guess if I could go back, I'd want to go back and, uh, well, Kant was influenced by Hume.
Mhm.
Um, Hume and Smith were good friends. They were both Scots,
Mhm.
and as a matter of fact, uh, Adam Smith edited some of Hume's books.
Mhm.
When he'd get the sheets, he'd get the proofs, I think they called them, and
Mhm.
then he would edit them for David Hume sometimes. So I would want to go back to sometime in the 18th century,
Yeah.
um, and I think I'd rather be in England than in France because um, they were France had a lot of smart people, but they didn't like them, didn't like
Mhm.
the smart people.
Oh, okay.
But
That
that,
that
yeah, that's probably, I don't
that
know.
is
I
interesting.
I'd like to go back. I mean, wouldn't you like to know what it was like in 1859? How many people thought there would actually be a civil war?
I don't know. You see that? No, not to be disrespectful, that never interested me.
Really?
No, I'm. I am. I kind of wish I was born when, and I was, but I was born a year before Earl Anthony went over $1 million. I'm a bowling nut.
Oh,
I'm obsessed with it. I live for it. It is, like I look at you guys as heroes, and I don't apologize for that. And and I've always been a bowling enthusiast, and I would love to go back in time, and I'd love to, you know, I I wish I could have Ed Lubanski on this podcast. I wish I could have Chris Schenkel on this podcast. Those I would go back to those times and pick their brains and see what they thought and whatnot. But no, Civil War, stuff like that. I mean, I respect all of that, but it just never was something that I was never interested in.
huh.
Yeah,
Okay. This is just a difference in us.
sure.
When I was an undergraduate, I used to, and I still think about this, and I've got God knows how many books here on this topic.
Hmm.
Why did England have the Industrial Revolution? Why
Hmm.
didn't it happen? Spain in the 16th and 17th century had an
Hmm.
enormous amount of wealth. They had all of this gold and silver coming in from Europe, from South America and Mexico. Why didn't they do it? Why didn't they put it together? They had all the capital, all the
Yeah,
money they needed.
yeah.
Why didn't Rome do it? You know
Hmm.
that Rome had, there was an engineer in Rome named, I don't know how you pronounce his name. It's Hero. I call him Hero. Uh,
Yeah.
and he developed a little toy
Hmm.
that was a steam engine.
Hmm.
And it would, he used it, as just a toy, and he showed it to the rich people and they thought it was kind of interesting. So they had the capacity to build a steam engine and they
Wow.
didn't do it.
Wow.
And so, they didn't do anything with it. So,
Hmm.
those kinds of questions, you know, sadly, I think about those things before I go to bed at night.
Oh, okay. Okay. Um, what would you say? What would you say is your favorite vacation spot?
Hmm. Well, my wife and I took a cruise. That's probably the last. Well, every year on Thanksgiving, we go down and see her son and
Hmm.
his wife and family, and that's always a lot of fun. Um, we took a cruise up along the Canadian East Coast, um, the maritime provinces up there, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland. That was a lot of fun. I went to Vegas a lot, and I don't gamble, except when I bowled, and you kind of had to. I mean, but I liked Vegas because I stayed away from that. I would get in one of those what do they call them? Long stay hotels, You could, and so I liked that. There's just a lot of places. When I graduated from high school, my college counselor, asked me if I was going to go to college, and I said no, I didn't intend to really. I was going out to the West Coast, so I took a bus trip out the West Coast. I was going to work in a canning factory. Canning factory closed, so I hitchhiked around the West Coast. I went all the way out to Billings, Montana, hitchhiked to Seattle. This was in 1965. This was before the hippies, and it was kind of fun, there were bad spots. I never want to go back to Kellogg, Idaho, or Idaho Falls, because I ended up in jail in both those places, vagrancy. And there in Madero, California, they put me in jail. That's when I came home.
Okay.
But that wasn't so much like enjoyable as I really grew up. And that's when that really changed my attitude towards work. Instead of avoiding it, maybe it was time to actually do something. So that's when I started studying in school. That's when I started, just being much more serious about life.
Yeah.
So that trip, although not really a vacation, that was a really meaningful event in my life.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. You have any phobias, Bob?
I'm pretty normal.
Okay.
Let's see. Well, I used to wear shirts that all looked the same, so that I wouldn't think that there was some shirt that was special, that it was lucky. But I'm kind of a guy that lives in a random world,
Okay. There you go. What is something that you're a fan of that people would be surprised by if they knew?
Yeah. Well, most people are surprised that I like Nightwish, given the fact I'm as ancient as I am.
You're not ancient.
Let me think. Well, everybody knows that I read a lot. I've as I've gotten older, I've actually read several books on evolution and biology, and I wish that I would have studied that more when I was in school.
Biology.
Yeah. I took 4 semesters of physics or 3 semesters of physics. I took a lot of math. Obviously, if I got a PhD in economics, I took a lot of math.
Wow. Okay.
But the math that I took and got through PhD classes in math, but like the hardest one was theory of functions, and the guy gave me a B the first time I took it because he said, you're not a mathematician, and thanks for trying. And so I took it again. I took the class again, and I just sat in on it. And the first day of class, the guy drew a diagram on the chalkboard. This is how long ago it was on the chalkboard. And I said, holy crap. I wish I would have seen that sometime before, because that explains the whole semester. It was one of those things. So I don't know. I read a statistics blog every day.
Yeah.
At least one. And I don't know. I don't know what people would be surprised at.
Well, there you go. That's all right. Are you a party all night kind of guy or quiet night at home?
Quiet night at home.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't drink, and there's a good reason I don't drink. I drank for a while, um, and I was a horrible drunk.
Mhm.
One, I got drunk really quick. I didn't
Mhm.
handle my alcohol well, and I was horrible. It was just
Mhm.
nasty,
Mhm.
mean,
Mhm.
And I remember I stopped drinking in '82, and
Mhm.
I was with my bowling friends. We went to a bar after we bowled, and so I ordered Diet Pepsi, and the guy says, "You're not drinking?" And I said, "No, I'm going to quit drinking." And everybody said the same. That's a good thing, Bobby. You probably shouldn't be drinking. When your bowling friends tell you you shouldn't be drinking, you
Yep.
shouldn't be drinking.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep. I'm proud of you, man. That's all. That's awesome. That's really
Well, it
incredible.
wasn't hard. I didn't like it to begin with, but
Okay.
it wasn't hard.
Yeah. All right. Um, when you were on tour, what did you do to take your mind off of bowling?
My wife came with me one time for 8 straight stops on the senior tour,
Mm-hmm.
8 straight weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And when she got done, she said, "I thought you guys were having fun out here." He said, "All you do is bitch and whine." He says, and it's just the same whining day after day after day. Um, so when my wife wasn't with me, I just read. I like to read. Guys
Mm-hmm.
would give me books.
That's
Uh,
cool.
uh, they say, "Oh, we hear you like to read." Well, yeah. So why read this? So thanks for the homework. But I do like to read, and there's as I said, I'll read a lot of different kinds of stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
don't read fiction. I have read some fiction, but
Mm-hmm.
um, uh, most of the stuff I read is I like academic history. I really like academic history.
Mm-hmm.
I like economics. Um, I don't read math for fun. So
Oh, okay. Um, all right. So hold on. Let me get the other. What is going on with this mouse? So let me ask you this: what were you, quote unquote, complaining about and whining about as like what would you guys whine about?
well, that's yeah. Uh, you've been around bowlers,
Yeah.
Oh, I
Okay.
can't
There you go.
carry. I left a solid 8. It would have been 5 in a row. I would have, I'd be in the number.
The lanes are
Um,
dry. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
that they're giving everything to the left-handers,
Yeah.
or they just all the same old,
The stuff
cliches.
I complain about today. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
Um.
let me tell you about one.
Sure.
This is just amazing. Uh, when I first went out on the senior tour, I bowled the Masters. Then the next tournament, I bowled, and so we got done. And like these 5 or 6 guys, I knew a couple of them. They asked me to go to dinner with them or go to lunch with them because we finished the second block, and it was like 4 o'clock, 4:15. So we go to
Mhm.
this buffet, and we get there at 4:30, right?
Mhm.
So it's the early bird buffet,
Mhm.
and you know, we get our stuff. We're sitting there, and then one guy says, "Did you take your pills?" And the guy says, "Yeah, I took mine. Did you take yours?" Yeah. So everybody's checking and make sure everybody took their pills. And I
Mhm.
thought, my God, I am on the senior tour. This is what it's like. But that's the coolest thing about it too. We cared about each other.
Of course. Of course. Do you think? I mean, I'm assuming you followed the national tour. Do you think there was a lot of that on the national tour, or is that you know bowlers caring about each other? I felt I heard stuff that seemed that there was a lot of that. But you think people on the national tour are nicer than the senior tour, or vice versa? What do you think about that?
I thought the guys on the senior tour were the guys, I was never a star, right?
Hmm.
So the guys, there was a group that I hung out with, and yeah, we cheered for each other, we rooted for each other. I
Yep.
know that that's true. That was true out on the regular tour. Um, but the thing is that all those guys are really competitive too, and the senior tour wasn't quite as competitive, I don't think.
Hmm.
for one thing, very few guys had to make money. Regular tour, if you're not making money, you got to wonder why you're there.
Right.
It's and the other thing too is the bowlers on the regular tour. I remember, watching Pete and watching Walter Ray. Those guys are just so incredible that you're almost shocked when they don't do well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So how much encouragement do they need? But
none.
that I do know that guys used to there was a group that Pete hung around with, and they looked out for each other.
Oh, sure. I actually went to a senior event back in 21, and it was in Fort Myers, and my God, everybody there was great, and they all talked to me, and I mean, of course I was friends with Parker, and and I knew Walter and whatnot. I mean, that was incredible, and I mean, the PBA, that was my first ever PBA 50 event, and I would do that again in a heartbeat. I mean, the PBA 50 bowlers, incredible. I mean,
yeah,
it was a good experience.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So, if you could have dinner with 3 people, living or past, who would they be?
Oh, well, I really would have liked to have met David Hume.
Okay.
The Scottish philosopher. It'd be interesting to listen to Feynman talk. The physicist, the famous physicist. He was apparently an incredibly interesting guy. There are a couple of books that guy wrote who, spent several years with him, and just all the crazy things he would say and do, and his life was pretty crazy. Well, I got to admit, I always had fun. I remember I went to lunch several times with Hanley, Brian, and I. I always liked those. I mean, that doesn't sound spectacular or anything, but I always liked when Brian and I had a great time when we were together. For one thing, we were very forgiving of each other. I mean, I can do some really stupid things, and Brian never got really upset about my stupidity. And so, it was, I really enjoyed that. So, yeah, I guess Brian,
yeah.
Really, yeah.
I'll tell you, when I had that interview, Brian is such a nice guy. I mean, that was a lot of fun, that interview with Brian, and I would do that again in a heartbeat. I really would. What was your favorite toy as a child?
Oh, the bowling pins.
There you go. Yep. Okay. All right. I had a feeling you were going to say that. What are you binge watching right now?
I don't do that a lot.
Okay.
I am watching the Jack Reacher, the Reacher series.
Okay.
But I don't. It's hard for me to watch more than like an hour and a half. I can read for hours, but it's hard for me to watch very long. I don't know why. I do like I like going to movies. I like watching movies. I like old movies though. I've got old DVDs of some of the comedies from the 30s and 40s. I can watch those over and over again.
Yeah. Wow. There you go. And finally, how do you want to best be remembered when you leave this earth?
No, I tried hard.
Yeah.
My dad used to always say,
Mm-hmm.
if it's worth doing, it's worth trying.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are a lot of things that I just sort of I didn't work hard at, and I kind of regret it now. But the things that were important to me, I really did work hard at. I worked hard at bowling. I mean, I practiced a lot
Yeah, you did.
because I had to. I just
Mm-hmm.
Brian is a gifted athlete. You should have seen him when he was like 19, 20, 21 throw a softball or throw a baseball. My
Mm-hmm.
God. Or play basketball.
Yeah.
Fantastic athlete. I was mediocre, so I practiced a lot. I had to work hard to get through school. I really I like learning, but it's not easy. So yeah, I guess I tried.
All right.
I'm not very good at I studied philosophers,
Mm-hmm.
but my personal philosophy probably comes from my mother, and
Mm-hmm.
it's basically do the best you can.
Yeah. Mine is, of course, live life to the fullest, and yeah,
That's good too.
absolutely. Well, man, thank you so much, Bob, for doing this. I don't mean to ask you on the air, but do you think I could put you in touch with Andrew Pfeffer? I'm sure he'd love to chat with you about your bowling story.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have him email you and whatnot. But are you watching the Players Championship tomorrow? Are you following that at all? Or
I'll try to, but we don't get it here. I
okay,
mean, we only get some of it,
okay,
and I
all right.
it's just amazing watching the young kids with the
Mhm.
two-handed release and stuff.
Yep.
That was just I bowled with a guy in the Southwest who first time I bowled with him, he was a high school kid and a pro-am. This was back in 1980,
Mhm.
and he threw two-handed. I can't think of his name now. So I had seen two-handed bowling, and he was really good. He won titles,
In the
won
80s?
regional titles. What?
In the 80s?
Yeah,
Okay. Wow.
regional titles.
Wow. There you go.
Oh God, I can't think of his name. He quit bowling because his wife wanted, or his girlfriend wanted him to quit, and then he ended up making $1 million plus with a business. I mean, he was a smart kid.
Yeah, there you go. Well, hey, listen, Bob, thank you very much for your time. This was a lot of
Okay.
fun. I hope you enjoyed it. And,
I did.
Keep in touch. And this has been Flush in the Pocket. Bob, you have a great night, man.
Okay, you too, Derek. Thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you, bud. Have a great one.
Okay.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
That was awesome, Bob Glass. So that was Flush in the Pocket. And if we don't have an episode lined up, but keep in touch or stay tuned and we will. Thank you and have a good one. Flush in the Pocket presented by Brunswick and sponsored by Just in Time Recreation. Check them out, justintimebowl.com.